잘못해 서툴러 굳이 말 안 해도 내 마음 잘 알잖아. 나도 널 좋아해 나도 너를 믿어. 그럼 내 맘도 알아줘. 너 깜짝깜짝 자꾸 놀래키지 마. 예고 없이 네 입술 갖다 대지 마. 너무 급해 그냥 안아줘. 키스는 다음에 키스는 다음에 키스는 다음에 키스는 다음에 멜로 영화 속 주인공 같진 않아도 마냥 어린애처럼 가볍지도 않죠. 여자는 있지 자꾸자꾸만 확인하고 싶단 말야. 철없는 아이처럼 됐으면 어떡해. 든든한 오빠처럼 묵묵히 날 봐줘. 날 좋아한다면 그게 네 진심이라면 더 믿게 해줄래. 너 깜짝깜짝 자꾸 놀래키지 마. 예고 없이 네 입술 갖다 대지 마. 너무 급해 그냥 안아줘. 키스는 다음에 살짝 네 손이 닿기만 해도 두근두근 떨린단 말야. 속도를 늦춰줘. 앞질러 가지마. 장난인 척 삐진 척 소용없어. 마음의 준비가 필요해. 기다려. 나도 네가 좋아. 그치만 오늘은 안아줘. 너무 급해 오늘은 이만. 키스는 다음에 키스는 다음에 키스는 다음에 키스는 다음에.
Good evening and welcome back to Shenzhen I, where last time I looked I was going, I haven't got enough printed circuit board space for this neural network printer thingammy boss name. Sorry, I'm still slightly behind in my organising of things because I forgot to turn on the other laptop. So we had this, neural scaffold printer thingammy, which was fine, except that, like, it's not actually got the bits that tell it what to do. So we've got a sensible system for driving the print head around, which consists of these three, which between them generate all of the print head movements, and then this lot, which are taking full advantage of the wired OR nature of the various valves in order to be able to generate the various different patterns. And of course, for added fun, they have to be able to generate all of those patterns in two different directions. I know. I was just pondering whether we want to have them just generate them in one direction and stuff them into RAM and then feed them, then extract them again afterwards. So, but I don't think that's actually the right thing to do because of the usual problem that reading from RAM backwards in this is kind of painful. I think. I'm now going, so what would it cost in ROM rather, to actually just code everything? But the thing is that would require far. That would require one ROM per output row, probably. I mean, maybe not. Maybe we could do something cleverer with some kind of indirection. I mean, after all, 0, 1 and 2 are really trivial. So I'm kind of wondering if we can condense the the odd things in 4, 5, 6 into, because 4, 5, 6 are, well, they're 2 CPUs. So what can we reduce them to? We'd reduce them to a ROM and 1 CPU. That's hardly a great win. Sorry, I'm reorganising my my IRC very slowly. So, Claire, which Korean word did you recognise? I'll then miss her reply by switching IRC clients at the moment that it happens. Yes, Dugan. It's the onomatopoeic word for a heartbeat. So it's like feeling nervous in that song, I think. Right. Anyway, /quit. No, I can't do that because I have to do it in the other order. Fool. That order, right. Right, so yes, I can now see IRC and this at the same time and go, what am I doing? Is there some clever way that can be done? Probably not. Hello, Claire. Right, so yes, my problem is that I've got enough stuff to generate each of the rows, but not really enough space to do anything else. So what else would I need? I would need something that can connect up to 6 X buses and poke them all. And tell them to do the thing. And so that's going to need, just to get enough X-bus ports, 2 processors. Unless we start daisy chaining things. Which might be the thing to do, but is going to make the board layout even more hideous. So what else could I do? I mean, I'm reasonably confident about the carriage movements. The thing is, if we used ROMs, we'd end up spending... Now, that's not going to be sensible, is it? Really? Is it? Like, how can I... Oh... What would we need to stick in a ROM? Because we could have... Is there actually a gap I can insert this into and really screw everything up? So, I mean, we could have things that go... I suppose we can fit 2 We can fit the two directions in one ROM. Does that gain us much? The thing is, if we do that, we're going to have to stick a DX300 somewhere and then somehow have a means of driving, of doing whatever we want to do with the, like, are we going to drive everything from that? Do we try to do all of these with a single ROM? So like at the moment that's requiring, but even that this requires two processors, so we do those with a single ROM. We need two processors, or rather we need a processor and a ROM, which take up the same amount of space and need very dense wiring. Finding myself going, can we arrange to just have like radios connecting these chips together so we don't need so many wires?
Are you really sure that having Wi-Fi for everything is going to improve the situation?
Probably not. Mostly I find myself wishing our pick and place machine could handle 90-degree rotations. I'm kind of pondering the whether we could make the motor controller simpler. But like it boils down to a single track from here onwards anyway. Right. Just wondering, like 7 is fairly bare, partly because we've stuffed 8 into there, but like the thing is that loops on the accumulator are really painful to construct. So I mean, I thought about, well, could we do this as a loop, but the thing is you need 2 instructions for what happens in the loop, and then an add, and then a compare, and then a jump. So it takes 5 instructions to write the loop out, and our loop is only 5 instructions long. So that doesn't really gain us much. There's something that we could stuff in an MC6000. Like, I suppose our control circuitry could be an MC6000 which then drives a bunch of these things to generate some of the patterns and generate some patterns itself. And we also need to cache the entire input sequence, because we have to feed that out one entry at a time. So we need a RAM to cache that in. The pattern generation is going to have to be much denser than I've managed to build it. Which is kind of alarming. What on earth am I going to do? Now kind of wondering about something that involves, rather than all of this stuff, processors that just know, loops are so expensive, that just know how to generate patterns, which they do over XBus rather than them doing it over simple outputs. But the thing is, then they have to have loops to generate the XBus outputs, and we know that loops are expensive. So I think what I should do is, no, not actually a new design, or copy that one. And then see if we can rewrite bits of it. So this setup at least does manage the whole of the time it takes to generate output, as in the entire 6x6 output sequence. And so if we were to replace that with an MC6000, it could probably handle doing that and reading the data from the input. The tricky bit being then how we get all of the valves doing their thing. So, like, can we slice things the other way? Could we maybe have a ROM that's like sorted by time step and has things for each of these columns? But the thing is, we want 3 bits for each of these, and didn't we conclude that you can't actually get that amount of information in a ROM? So there has to be at least some like compression, or implementing some of these by short-circuiting and just having a thing that does them. These are obviously like much too fiddly and complicated. I'm just staring at the PGA 33X6 and trying to convince myself I can't do anything useful with it. I mean, it could trivially generate the nice alternating sequence. And it can probably generate some other interesting patterns as well. But ultimately it's got 3 inputs and 3 outputs, and what could we usefully do with that? I'm just imagining what set of inputs it would need to be able to, to be able to generate all the outputs we want. I mean, like my current system of having of these two seems kind of sensible, except that they're actually their code can be simplified, can't it? If nothing else, I've just noticed there's a. Well, if we assume that they never, like one of my ideas have been that maybe they would receive 0 to mean don't emit anything at all. But if we assume that's not the case, then we can like unify the various instructions that don't actually differ between the two sequences. So we can do that, and then that, and the same in that one. But that's not quite reduced them enough that we can get an entire extra pin out of it. Chip out of it. Like that we can manage to squeeze 7 into something else. Not unless we go up to MC6000s, which are going to be tricky to fit into this much space. Oh, we do, of course, kind of. No, we don't have a horizontal bridge because, well, that looks like a horizontal bridge. Once you get wires into both sides of it, there isn't actually a gap in between them. I mean, it's an inverter, obviously, as well, but there might be circumstances where that was acceptable. Now, that might mean that we could compress. Well, you can't really compress those. Those have to work in parallel, don't they? We might be able to say compress that and that into a an MC6000. Let me move that out of the way briefly so that I can see what's going on here. Right, so those now have fairly short things, and since they have to be able to run together, they can't be in the same processor, but maybe we could stick that in the same processor. But I don't know if that's going to gain us much. Still looking at the PGA 33x6 and going, so many bits of configuration, but what would it need? I mean, I suppose there's the interesting thing that we only have 4 states that the outputs can be in. We can have off, alpha, beta, psi. So that only requires 2 signals rather than rather than 3. Okay, let's burn everything to the ground and do something. Well, we'll leave the carriage control for now, because I've got my previous version which has all of these processors in it. Let us try something completely different. Oops. And go for the simple approach of saying these are our 2 inputs, and if they are both 0, then the output should be 0, so we don't actually need a column for that. If they are 1 and 0, then that should activate alpha. If they are 0 and 1, that should activate beta, and if they are both 1, that should activate psi. So first I observe that this gives us a bit of space for doing other trickery if that turns out to be helpful. So then that means that we could code with a bit of careful decoding. We might be able to fit 6 outputs into 2 cells in a ROM by having 1 digit for each step, though that's going to take quite a lot of code to untangle. But like, if we were to do that, we might be able to say that 0 is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2 is 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3 is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4 is 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. I'm not good at typing 3, 1, 3, and I keep wanting it to be 1, 3, 1 for obvious reasons. 5 is 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0. 6 is 3, 0, 0, 3, 0, 3. And then we have 7 and 8, which would have to be coded somewhere else. Like the second ROM. And then we would have to have some fairly hairy decoding system that could unpack those. Surely we want to be two processors. I think we want one that takes digits and renders them, and one that one that decomposes those inputs into their individual digits. There's actually a better bit of routing here if I want to be really weird. No, but I have to use a lot of space if I'm going to do that. Let's not for now. Actually, we can do that much better, can't we? Is that right? Hang on. Let's be that. Yes, that's what I meant. Right. Like that's closer. Gives us more space up here if we need it. So the idea then is this just goes now I want to get the low order bit. Which is something like mul 5 This is a bit too verbose. Really, the code editor should be willing to suppress a final new line if it's necessary to make things fit. sure 1 is what I want, is it? So if we have, say, 2, we multiply by 5, we get 10, and that pulls us out 0. That's better. I mean, actually, mul 100 mov p1 ac will be slightly shorter. So that now, given a digit, outputs that digit. Zero causes it to output nothing at all. Yes, 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 this is M68K, not ARM. That one I got right. So So yes, we do have this input here, which we might find use for. Because we could have that have some special results. So let's just test that with some. Well, we'll leave that ROM there. We've got space. Just generate a ROM with some test sequences in and have so it refuses to print if there's nothing underneath it appears. So that's correctly generating valve beta, but generating no other useful signals. Which is kind of confusing. Right, what am I doing wrong there then? I'm writing everything to the same output pin. Let's write both output pins and see if that does better. Right. So it goes 1 2 3 0 1 2 3 0 3 2 1 0 1 0 1 2 3. So that does indeed correctly decode individual digits that are fed to this processor. So then we could have something that somehow extracts those digits one at a time. What would that look like? I mean, that's incredibly crude. Very odd output. In part because, yeah, things are happening in slightly surprising times, and also it's starting from reading zeros. Also, it seems to be... Oh yes, because that... yeah. So... let's try filling this ROM with something slightly more helpful. I mean, if we went for the really crude thing of just filling this ROM with what... well, with the beginnings of what we're asked to print anyway, which would be... 2, which is 222, 222, 1, which is 111, 111, 4, which is 311, 313, 4, 2, 6. And then we want 1 sleep at the beginning. No, that's not going to help. Well, there we go. That's not right either, but still. So that doesn't quite do the right thing. It starts off okay. Partly because how it starts off is trivial. So then, oh, of course, I have to reverse half of the things, don't I? So this line is forwards. And, of course, I've built this to be little endian. But I think it's going to make my brain hurt less if I make it big endian. But then then that 311313 has to be put in backwards, so it's then 311113 and 222222 and finally a 6 backwards, which is 303003. Okay, what went wrong there? One of my numbers is apparently wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which should be a 4. And it's the third digit of 4, which should be 3, 1, 3. 2, 3, 4. Yes, there. Right, so through extreme cheating, we almost successfully draw the first layer, the first output. Which looks like that. But there is an awful lot of cheating in there. So this feels like this might be feasible. So there's surely more code in this than is necessary to do the job that it's doing. Which is probably for the best, because we're going to have to make it smaller. This kind of feels a bit like the earlier thing. Where we similarly have this thing extracting digits. But of course it doesn't have all those sleeps in it, because we ended up queuing up that wrong one. We ended up it was just queuing things into RAM somewhere, whereas we have to, I mean, we could queue things into RAM and have this thing read out repeatedly from RAM, like that SLXX0 would essentially turn into a sleep 1. Then I would go, I want one more instruction to be able to control to be able to start and stop this sensibly. Though I suppose we could just have it spew out zeros continuously, but that would be kind of inconvenient, because it would be hard to work out where you stick something in the RAM in order to get it to pick it up. I mean, obviously that instruction there gets to go if nothing else does. So if we turned that into a loop, I wonder what it would look like. I mean, I suppose we could turn it into a loop with a bit of RAM in between. Or we could make this a slightly bigger processor so that it would it could have a RAM interface and timing logic. But the thing is, that RAM would have to... Now, I prefer an approach that just involves putting the timing reasonably far upstream. Like, we could make this one do that, and obviously that doesn't work if it's reading from ROM, but will work fine if it's reading from another processor. Actually, I did have an idea of how we can tuck this in. Can we? Right, so now we're in a situation where this thing, every 3 cycles, wants to be fed a number, and assuming it is fed a number, it will then spend a little while sending... Oh, no, that doesn't work. I suppose sending that information out. The problem is it needs to know what to do when it reaches here, and if it's not asked to send, if you pass it a 0, it will then transmit that and spend 3 cycles doing so. But that's fine. If we do that at the end, it can spend it. Its zeros can overlap with the reset if we if they have to, so that's fine. So then if we wanted to have something that did this in a still crude way, but slightly better, we could have something here that was x 0 Right, does that do the right thing? I mean, apart from wrapping round at the end, yes. So now, obviously, that processor is nowhere near clever enough, but we've got quite a lot of space in which we could do something cleverer if it were a bigger processor. Um, that one was a bit of a fake, wasn't it? So it may not end up looking like that. So what would this want to do then? So the tricky thing is that can we sensibly do like digit reversal? Or do we just dig up? We just have something which knows how to find each sequence in the ROM. Because notably we can only code 7 sequences directly in ROM. But maybe we can just do 0 as a thing we skip. And the thing is, we do need a forwards and backwards way of doing things. But the problem is we can't wire 2 address buses and 2 data buses to the same device. And I think in the past we found that it's not possible to have, if we have a ROM that 2 people write in, we can't have 2 ROMs hanging off the same address bus and expect them to just move in sync. We expect them to both receive the address updates, which is what we would quite like to be able to do. So how do we handle the requirement to go backwards and forwards? Like, do we just have 2 ROMs, one for each direction, and then we have some, but then again, that's 2 ROMs, that's too much. That requires wiring up 4 X-bus ports, because we have to be able to do random access to this thing, which essentially means we're going to need 2 processors, because we can't get 4 X-bus ports on the same processor. So if we have it skip 0, because that just involves sending zeros, then the codes would be 111 222. No, sorry, 111111 222 222. 121212. 311313. 011010 100 100. Sorry, 011 10 100 101. Sorry, 300 303 010. I can't count. This has gone wrong. Oh, 121212 311 313 011010 300 303 010 000. Oh no, we can only have 7 things in the ROM, can't we? Stoats. So we have to. That suggests that 0, 1, and 2 have to be special or something. Almost going, do we actually end up with these just being written in instructions? I mean, they're slightly smaller, but putting in a ROM than they would be just open coding mov. But the awkward thing is that whatever sends them has to also handle timing, because you can't SLX on writes. So, yes. So, yeah, we need to... It's obviously, it's like easy to write that sort of thing and just emit the same thing repeatedly. Let's code from the other end for a bit. So it's a blocking XBus input, which might be interesting. What's that little notch there for? Is that to allow me to put a chip up there that uses the XBus port in the top left corner of it? Yeah, I'm going to actually have to move this one to the right because I want all of its XBus ports available. So maybe that could be rolled up a bit. So then the tricky bit is that this actually wants to ping. This has to. It informs both. It has to inform both of these that there's both the carriage control and the actual print generation processors that something needs doing. Maybe it can do those both through the same X-bus port. Sorry, I meant X3. I'm now wondering how much I can cheat here. Like, the maybe I don't ever need to rewind this RAM because we can only ever do one print job in a 80 time unit. That thing going to crash, isn't it? Yes. So, we don't have to make this. We can essentially assume that the whole system will be power cycled after every print. So there's a lot of stuff that we can avoid doing. So actually, we do know that we can fit all of the data, the actual output data, i.e. in this format, for one print in a RAM. And that means that whatever's generating it that means that the thing between the RAM and this processor can handle the timing, or indeed doesn't need to because this one can handle the timing. So we can do something a bit like that, and the only problem is when we run off the end, we kind of have to stop, and this one currently assumes that it can loop around repeatedly, and it needs some kind of a signal to start as well. That doesn't work, obviously, but so then the idea is that this works out what has to be printed by means still uncertain, and then signals this, please start printing now. I almost certainly want those the other way round, don't I? Or not. So then obviously this is completely wrong. But the point is, it's an interesting kind of wrong. In that we essentially now say we do actually need to send that signal, don't we? What's that doing? Why did that not work? Not do something at least? There, I would have expected it to have printed something. What's going on? Am I missing a sleep somewhere? Oh, I'm missing a sleep on each loop, aren't I? Yes. That's kind of inconvenient. Because I've run out of space to write that sleep. So it's not yes. You have a cleverer way of extracting any of those digits? Not really. There's essentially anything. The only way we have of getting a single digit out, if we want more than one bit of information from it, is by a DGT instruction. And essentially this one is running the timing as well. And it kind of has to do that because I can't really push the timing back to here, since aforementioned you can't sleep waiting for an X bus port to be writable. So the timing has to be done at the point where we pull things out of the ROM. And we depend on being able to. And like all of those instructions look like they're necessary. And you can't really do a DGT based on a register because there aren't any spare registers. Right, unless we recycle one of the, unless we try to use an X bus port to signal 1, 2, 3. There's some way I can fiddle this. Not C1. Well, I mean, I suppose there is one way. Yes, okay, that'll work. except it doesn't. Maybe it does, but that depends on us having lots of spare processing capacity over here, which, like, we don't really. I was going to make that a DGT X1 in order to subsume that X1 read there into a later instruction. But the problem with that is that this one is conditional on only occur once right at the start of the program, because that's the point at which we're told it's time to go. And that's not very helpful. We can't, that means unless this thing feeds us lots of 2s, we can't actually fold that into there. Curses. I mean, yes, responding to Pink Beast on IRC, there is a way in which this is different from most of my work, in that it's very rare that it's code size constraints that are making my life difficult at work. If I can replace this with 2 processors that kind of cooperate to do it. Not really, no. It's like, could they make that a little bit prettier? This is so flabby, this bit here. Must be a better way to do that. Why don't we have shift operators? I really don't want to have to split this up further. Though I suppose... No, the thing is, I can't. That fundamentally the sleeps have to be as far upstream as we can get them. And like, what I'd like is to have this be a loop, but the thing is, as previously mentioned, loops are quite expensive. Unless we have an entire processor whose job is to do the loops. So it's just infuriating because we're like one instruction away from having that work correctly. Well, let's have it working correctly for now and see whether we can fix what else we can do and where we have some space later. Because obviously that's no good either. So now I'm just trying to remember how the carriage control works. So that does... So essentially, in order to print 2 lines, it moves 1 to x3, and in order to reset, it moves -1 to x3. So we could go for a simple if you get a positive, let's use TCP because I like it, input, then do normal processing, otherwise reset. Well, that didn't work very well. What's happened there? Yeah, obviously I meant X1. So that's got the carriage control doing the right thing, now actually being instructed by this one. Cheatily, but everything's cheating here. So the problem here perhaps one of several, is that oh god, I forgot what the problem was. I don't know. We still need to encode, or rather, yes, work out what the thing we're being asked to print actually means. Because at the moment we just squirt it out directly into the RAM, and we need to translate that. Oh yes, the problem is that we have a shortage of X-bus pins on this chip. And something somewhere needs to handle translating things as they go into the RAM, and that requires 2 X-bus pins, one to request a particular cell from the ROM that will explain how to print something, and one to actually read the data from the ROM. Which kind of makes me feel like we want another processor whose job is shuffling data out of the ROM and into the RAM. based presumably on instructions from this one. And I've got a slight space problem in that I need that X3 to be able to be connected up to this processor without fouling A0 on the ROM, on the RAM, sorry. Mainly mean I need to put these two somewhere else, but there isn't that much space where I can cram two 3-thing wide chips side by side. I mean, maybe I can move them up by one. So I guess the idea now is that that disconnects from there, and then that connects to something. I mean, I could tuck this up a bit further and then move these two up a square. But then that makes it impossible to connect that X2 to D0 there. Really, we want that RAM to be slightly higher up. But that's a trifle inconvenient with that in the way. And that has to go over that pin, so we can't move this one to the right at all. It's inconvenient. I mean, maybe I can stack things in a different direction. Not easily. I mean, I suppose that can reasonably go there. That doesn't help us very much. I mean, that gives us enough room to move those up by one, but that doesn't actually clear both X-bus ports on there. We obviously can't move this processor up any further. We can technically move it to the right, I suppose, by one square. But that doesn't help very much because we can't get anything out of the... If we stick the ROM there, we can't actually get any connections to it. I don't think that's really what we want to do. Oops. Feels like maybe I want to move the RAM a bit because its connections are relatively flexible. But they're all kind of backwards for what we want to do. Maybe I could put the RAM there. That would kind of work, wouldn't it? Except that now blocks X2 there. because that then blocks. Oh, but we've got spare X bus pins on that one, so we can do that. And that blocks P1 on there, which is acceptable. No, because X2 there is blocked, and I do actually need one more X bus pin on this processor to be the synchronization pin from that one. So that still doesn't work. Maybe we could turn this one into a MC4000X by a bit more cleverness. Not easily, actually. Well, it's 3 minutes to midnight. Maybe I should leave this utter nightmare here and see what I can see whether I decide I need to have a different design on Sunday. So yes, I think we will stop here and come back on Sunday. So good night, everyone, and we'll see you later.